The Denver Nuggets, Nikola Jokic last year, sixth in the Western Conference despite Jamal Murray, Michael Porter Jr. not playing the entire season. Do you feel like this offseason they made the necessary moves to be in the midst of the contenders once again? Can they maybe beat a Golden State or a Clippers in the NBA playoffs if they were to face them? What do you guys think about this?
Well, I always thought, if Denver was healthy, they were going to be in the conversation. Joker coming off a back-to-back MVP 2 seasons. He didn't have any help. 6th seed. I think they did really well in the draft. They picked Zeke, Najee. They had Bones Highland. Those are 2 really good players that are going to come off their bench. They opened up room for Bones, too, with trading Monte Morris, so he will be the backup point guard. They picked up KCP. I thought that was a huge move. A guy who can space the floor. He's a really good cutter. He could defend. It's just about health for Denver. I think at this point, they haven't really seen their big 3 fully together at their best. So I think for us to say, oh, they need to make more moves, it's tough because when is the last time those 3 have been really healthy and they've been at their best? The last time we've seen them was the bubble. And even then, MPJ, he has so much room to grow. We don't know what he can really be. The back injuries have been messing up. But I think just them getting healthy, I think if they can get healthy with the Joker playing at this type of level, they will be at the top of the conversation with the Clippers, with the Warriors, because they as well as those teams have a mismatch problem, they do too. They have the Joker who can literally destroy any defensive scheme in the NBA. So when you have that type of player, you have a top 4 player in the world, you're always going to be competitive. You got to just put the guys around it. I think Denver has done that.
River, you said it pretty perfectly. The biggest concern for the Nuggets is health. I love the addition of Bruce Brown. Yes, he isn't Riv's favorite basketball player, but at the same time, he does his job very well. He doesn't do more than what he's asked. He rebounds well, passes the ball when he's needed to, and he hits shots. He gets to the bucket. He finds a way to work within that paint. Bruce Brown's one of those gritty type ball players that you like having on your roster. Adding KCP, adding a shooter to your squad, that's always solid. 3-and-D type guy. I just worry about Jamal Murray and MPJ. Jamal Murray, I'm not too worried about specifically for the fact that it's an ACL injury. You come back from those. We've seen guys come back from an ACL injury. I feel like once Murray's in the swing of things, Murray's going to be the Murray that we've known and grown accustomed to. MPJ is my concern because last season and in this past season, I should say, and when he was first drafted, his concern was his back. And that's the reason why he dropped to where he did in the draft. And the reason why the Knicks don't have MPJ on their roster as of right now. And now, years later, it's coming back to haunt the Nuggets. And MPJ has shown great strides in his game since coming into the league. But without that third level guy, I do have my concerns with the Nuggets. They have a great roster for sure when it's 100% healthy. When it's 100% healthy, like Riv mentioned, you have to group them amongst the best teams in the Western Conference and amongst the best teams in the NBA, truthfully. But you cannot fully go all in on that without knowing and seeing it consistently, at least for the first 2 months of the NBA season, Jamal Murray playing Jamal Murray basketball and MPJ taking another stride in his development, but being consistent in that.
I think that y'all pretty much summed up everything that I was thinking about. The main thing is just health. It really is just down to health because I do believe that Jokic is one of the best basketball players in the world, as you all do as well. The fact that he even was able to get some wins or get a win against the Golden State Warriors without Jamal Murray, without Michael Porter Jr. is already a testament to his greatness. I just think that, he was just missing his guys. So for me to really say that, they needed to make a lot of moves or did they make enough moves to get them there? I think that the one thing that they need to do to get there is just see what are these guys like when they're healthy. To your point, I think that MPJ has had the back issues, and the back issue is like one of the worst things that you can have just as an athlete in general. But what I think about as well is even if we don't see MPJ take a step in the right direction or a step forward in his maturation process, at the end of the day, this is still a 6'10" guard wing who is going to be able to space the floor at a high level and guard multiple positions. Not the greatest defender, but he is able to guard multiple positions. And I think that as his IQ continues to develop, he will still be a major piece to this organization. I think that Jamal Murray coming back and being who we expect him to be is going to be the biggest key. Like you said, KCP, great defender, able to knock some shots down. I think Bruce Brown just kind of being a all-around guy who can kind of glue it together, but also be really good defensively helps. But Jokic is just going to need somebody else who's going to be out there to get a bucket. I think Jamal Murray will be able to provide that. If they can stay healthy, I see them being a top 3 team in the West and competing for a championship genuinely. And even if they're not top 3, I still think that they can compete for the championship just as if everybody's healthy.
There's no doubt. Jamal Murray, before he got hurt, was having his best season yet as a pro. He got hurt. Michael Porter Jr. came in and averaged 24 points per game in his absence. In the playoffs, he didn't do his best. Disappointed for sure. Michael Porter Jr. deserved that extension Denver gave him because ultimately he is somebody who has all-star potential. Jamal Murray is an all-star caliber player, I believe. So in the playoffs, he turns into a superstar level player, and we know Nikola Jokic is that. I feel like this was the best possible offseason for the Nuggets in reference to them not getting a star player, because we know if they would have gotten a star, everybody would have been very excited about it, but they made key acquisitions that have went under the radar. Kentavious Caldwell-Pope, great defender, NBA champion, shoots 40% from 3, great catch and shoot shooter. Rev mentioned he's a great cutter. Playing with Jokic, being able to space the floor is going to be huge. And Denver has been looking for a starting 2 guard for like 3 years now. It was Will Barton at a point, and Will Barton is good, but he's more of a spark plug off the bench than he is a starter because he scores, but he doesn't play defense. He's a subpar playmaker. And then before Will Barton, when he was hurt in the bubble, who was it? PJ Dozier? I'm forgetting who it was. They never had a true starting 2 guard. KCP is the first 2 guard that they've had in a long time that is a true starter. It was Gary Harris at one point. KCP now fills that role. And then you bring in Bruce Brown. Now, every team in the league needs a glue guy. Grant Williams, PJ Tucker, Jared Vanderbilt, Patrick Beverly, those type of guys. That's what Bruce Brown is. Bruce Brown played point guard in college. Bruce Brown worked the pick and roll and the short roll with Steve Nash in Brooklyn. He's somebody that can make up for Monte Morris's playmaking now that he's gone because Bruce Brown can handle the ball. He shot 40% on catch and shoot threes last season. He is a pest of a defender. So now you have a bench of Bones Highland, who I think is better than Monte Morris. You have Bruce Brown. Jeff Green is there. Zeke Naji. They signed DeAndre Jordan, but we know DeAndre Jordan is more so just a veteran presence in the locker room. And their lineup is very good defensively. Aaron Gordon, MPJ, KCP, Jamal Murray. We'll see how he plays defensively. I mean, this team is definitely a team that can make the finals, and they can beat any team in the West. They can beat the Clippers. They've already proven it. They can beat the Warriors because we know their biggest weakness is at center, and nobody can check Jokic. And now that you surround them with the necessary perimeter players, they can make that series a fight. So the Nuggets, no doubt, are at the top of the West. And I feel like if they stay healthy, they'll be one of those teams in the Western Conference Finals for sure.
Ooh, that's tough.
Minnesota.
It's not crazy. Oh, okay, here we go. And don't forget about the Grizzlies. Don't do that.
Nobody's worried about Memphis, respectfully.
That sounds disrespectful.
I think the same thing though. I'm not worried about the Grizzlies.
I also agree. They'll be a little annoying team, but I don't think they're going to the WCF or nothing like that.
No, I'm not saying WCF either. I'm just saying you got to throw them in that conversation.
If we're ranking the West teams, these West
Memphis
teams
is like the 6th best team in the West.
If we're ranking the West teams, the Nuggets, the Warriors, the Suns, the Clippers, the Timberwolves,
Dallas.
I'm missing one. Dallas. And who else though? I'm missing somebody.
You're locked taking Timberwolves over the Grizzlies.
I'm not locking the.
Let me finish what I'm saying. So, okay.
I'm just saying. You said Timberwolves.
We're talking about these teams: the Warriors, Suns, Nuggets, Mavericks, Timberwolves,
Clippers.
Mm-hmm.
Memphis.
Out of these teams, which ones are pretenders? Warriors, I think we can all. They just won a championship. They're contenders for sure. The Suns, Pretender.
You could group
I
them
think
there.
I'm gonna be. I could make this pretty short. The Warriors, Denver, and the Clippers are the only contenders in the West for me.
Yeah.
So Memphis, they're
Mavericks.
Mavericks and Memphis are like in the middle between contenders.
All right.
I'd put
I can level there.
I
can
put
level there.
Mavs over Memphis.